Hello, Beta Group. Today I will be reporting my sleuthing on the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verses 40 through 56, and I will be paraphrasing. So Jesus arrived from the other side of the lake, and the crowd was there to greet him and welcome him. And in that crowd was a ruler of the synagogue, a man named Jairus, and he had a daughter who was 12 years old who was dying. He came to Jesus and fell at his feet and begged him to come to his home to heal his daughter. In that same crowd was a woman who had an issue of blood. She had been hemorrhaging for 12 years, and though she had sought physicians for those years, no one could cure her. She was in the crowd, and making her way, pressing through the crowd, she was determined to touch just even the fringe of his clothes to be healed. And she did just that. As she touched Jesus, she was instantly healed. At the same time, Jesus knew that someone had touched him, and he turned to the crowd and asked them, "Who touched me?" And no one came forward. And Peter said, "Master, the crowd's pressing on you and surround you. How would we know who touched you?" But Jesus knew that someone had touched him because he felt power go out from him. And so the woman came trembling and came to Jesus and admitted that she was the one, and she shared with Jesus and the crowd the issue that she had had all these years and had not been healed, and they rejoiced with her. And Jesus said, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." And about that same time, a messenger came from the home of Jairus and said, "Do not trouble the master any longer. Your daughter has died." But Jesus turned to Jairus and said, "Do not be afraid, just believe, and she will be saved." And so they journeyed to Jairus' home, Peter, James, John, Jesus, and Jairus. And they arrived at the home, and Jesus didn't let anyone in except his disciples and the little girl's mother and father. Outside of the home, the mourners were weeping and wailing, but Jesus said, "Do not weep. She is not dead, just sleeping." And they laughed and mocked at him because they knew she was dead. Jesus went to the little girl and took her by the hand and said, "Child, get up." And immediately she opened her eyes, and she was healed and resurrected from the dead. Jesus told the parents to give her something to eat, and then he also instructed them not to tell anyone what had happened. So the bad news in this passage is obviously there are people that need miracles. Jairus has a little girl, 12 years old, who is dying, and the woman with the issue of blood has sought help for 12 years and no one could cure her. The good news is that not only did Jairus' daughter receive her healing, but she was raised from the dead, and the woman with the issue of blood was instantly healed. What humans are doing in this passage is I see them all trying to get to Jesus. The crowd was there to get to him. Probably many of them needed healing themselves, needed a touch from the master. I see Jairus trying to make his way to Jesus, and also the woman with the issue of blood. I also see the crowd outside of Jairus' home, the more negative crowd, weeping and wailing and mourning. This was something they were paid to do, and so they were pretty dramatic about it. I also see Jairus' wife there in the home with the little girl. And what I see God doing in this passage is I see God setting the stage for miracles to happen, setting the stage with the crowd there for them to see who the Messiah is, who the Son of God is. I also see God taking what is foolish to confound the wise. He took a ruler from the synagogue, a very prominent man in the synagogue, that would submit his loyalty, submit his allegiance to Jesus, trusting in Jesus to heal his daughter. The different characters, of course, are Jesus and the crowd, and Jairus, the woman with the issue of blood, the little girl, Jairus' wife, along with Peter, James, and John, the crowd of mourners, along with the crowd that greeted Jesus when he got off of the boat. What intrigues me about this passage is I ask myself about the crowd. Were they believers? Were they simply skeptics? People who were just coming to gawk at this one that was called the prophet, the Messiah, who they had waited for to come? Is that why they were there? Also, thinking about Jairus, would he be thrown out of the synagogue for making allegiance to Jesus, this controversial Jesus? Would Jairus be, would he lose his job? Would he be thrown out of the synagogue? No doubt he possibly had undergone a lot of criticism for seeking help from Jesus. What I see trouble me is just thinking about the faith, the radical faith that this woman had, the woman with the issue of blood. Would I have such faith that despite everything, the way I felt, she obviously was very ill, as she had had this terminal illness for 12 years, bleeding for 12 years. She was no doubt very, very sick, but how far did she have to walk to get to Jesus? Would I have that same faith? Would I forsake all? Like Jairus did? Would I forsake all, no matter what people would think or how I would be criticized? Would I make my allegiance to Jesus? I would hope so, in the face of danger. Those are the things that trouble me. Would I have that radical faith? This woman, the woman with the issue of blood, she didn't care that she was sick, possibly bent over with pain, bleeding. She didn't care what she looked like, what she smelled like. She was going to even crawl to make her way to Jesus. Would I have that great faith that no matter what, I would make my way to Jesus? And so that is my report on sleuthing for this week. And so Beta Group, until we meet again, blessings to you.